Hi everyone, welcome back. You're going to hate me but by the end of this video, but you know, this is probably the most tedious part of the whole thing. So if we can get through this and we're still friends, then it's all going to be excellent. Okay, so we have got our bones, we've got our mesh, but not all of our mesh is moving with our bones. And one of the reasons for that is that when the bone is wrapped to an object, there's kind of a bubble around it, right? And that bubble encases any of the mesh. So this part's the mesh and this part's the bones. And then when that bone moves, everything in the mesh moves. And a lot of the time, that works fine as a default kind of application. But because we have quite a lot of geometry around where these joints are, it doesn't really know to include it. And it's quite wide as well. We can see that it's wider than the rest of it. So what it's done is it's just not included it, so that when we move this, it moves like the square bits, but it doesn't know that it's meant to be moving the circle bits. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to actually manually add them in, which is not quite as fun as you think it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our mesh, and we're going to need to be in solid mode, and we're going to now have all these extra bits, and we're going to go down to weight paint. So we want to paint the weight of the effect that bone has on that piece of mesh. Okay, and if that makes no sense, then that's absolutely fine. You're a normal human being. So here we can see that the vast majority of it is blue, and then we have kind of this hot bit, and then it kind of cools off gradually. So this, at a complete guess, but a very educated guess, is this bone here that's in this hand. Yeah, let's call them hands. So where this bone is, we want this to affect this part of the robot arm a lot, this bit maybe a little bit, and then all of this not at all, because it would be weird if we moved this bone and this part of the mesh moved, or even like this part. So we can go all the way down to this data tab, this little triangle, and we have all of our bones in here. Now, what you might want to do at this stage, and it's good practice to do, is actually go back to object mode and go in here and call your bones the things that they actually are. So let's go edit mode, this one bone 02. So if we call this like bone base, we call this one bone nerve arm, and call this bone forearm. And then we have these two little ones, so this is going to be on the right, so hand right, and you can call these what you want, and L, can't remember if that's the right, yeah. And then I'm going to call this a finger now, so finger right, and finger. Okay, now this kind of thing becomes more important when you're doing humanoids and you're doing more complex animation and rigging and things. But for now, it doesn't. It's just so that we know which one is which. Now, if we go to object mode and we go to weight paint mode and we go down here, we now have their names. And as you click on them, you can see you know, how they're kind of affecting different parts. So this finger is kind of affecting this, and this finger is affecting this. So you can see this one's actually got a bit more, but that's fine. The hand just has a little bit there, but we're probably not going to use them anyway, so that's okay. and the other hand goes a bit further down than I would like. So let's sort that, shall we? Let's do that bit first. So what I can do is I can now play with the strength at which this bone affects different parts of the hand, and I can kind of paint them on and things. So if I say this one connected here, and I say the weight is 100, I'm just going to put the radius up a little bit, and I should be able to, oh, there we go, there's a little extra bit. Now it's a bit difficult because we haven't got a lot of detail on here, but that's okay. There we go, we've got a little bit more there. Probably don't want that. And if I hold control, and it should get, there we go, get rid of a bit more of that. Okay. Now this should be a bit easier because we've got a bit more detail in. But we obviously don't want this part to affect this part. So we want to go to here, and we can see that it's kind of affecting these bits okay. They're a bit all over the place actually. We'll try and add a bit more in here. But it doesn't do this bit at all. So now if we try and like change this so that it's all at least included for now. I'm not quite sure how that's going to come out in the wash, but we'll give that a go. So that's the forearm, which was here, affects that. Oh dear, but we don't actually want any of this bit. And this is where kind of some of the more some additional modelling might be required. But remember, it's going to mess up your textures, so that will need redoing again. Okay, let's just go back to object mode and select, and select our rig and go back to pose mode and just see how that weight paint affected that. So before, when we moved this didn't move at all. I'm hoping that when this moves, that whole bit moves. There we go, much better. Okay, and actually that works really well because this wouldn't move when this moves. We want this bit to move, and that moves, so we can do that. So it's the bit before, and hopefully that now kind of moves when that moves. But again, we can actually completely remove that so that this bit doesn't rotate, and it kind of looks more like how this just rotates in there. If we wanted to, we could just back to object mode, select the mesh, back to weight mode, but this time select the arm. Where's the arm gone? Oh no, it was forearm, sorry. So arm is actually okay because the arm moves forearm. Forearm's connected to here, so it moves. That's fine. We could, if we wanted to, change that around so that arm controls all of this and then forearm doesn't. But it seems to be okay for the moment, so why mess with a good thing? And then the base, what we might do is just add in some of this. And remember, you can Control Z if something goes wrong, so don't worry about it. Don't be too shy. When you have considerably more complex meshes, it can be harder to do. So just enjoy whilst it's not too bad. And then back to object mode, select your armature, back to pose mode. You're going to be pros at that soon. There we go. Okay, but we've got this issue with the base. So let's go back to object mode, back to the mesh, back to weight mode, bone base. What we're going to do is we're going to do the opposite of this. So this is adding 100 strength, and we want to take away 100 strength. So I'm going to hold control, and I'm just going to click this. And again, we don't have a lot of data here, so hopefully this won't affect this bit. That's what I was afraid of. There we go. Okay, we'll see. Back to object mode, select this, back to pose mode. It's a little, it's got a, I like how that's not moving at all, so. As you can see, it takes a while. And let's just make sure that this is completely gone. Okay, leave it alone. Oh, that's okay. That's looking better. And pose mode, and okay, we'll leave it for now. But if you want to tweak that so that you don't get this going on, it's okay for now. Don't worry about it. Okay, so what we're going to do is move on to. Are we moving on to the next one? Yeah, we're moving on to the next one. If you have any other little issues in there, then you know, give them a go. Try to just, let's just see how this rotates. Okay, this is just horrendous. So what we could have actually done, if we wanted to avoid this from happening, is have this block as part of the base, so that it wasn't actually connected to this, and then this could rotate freely, and it wouldn't have been connected to that. In the same way that kind of that can rotate and move like that. Okay, so well done. Feel free to kind of save up, carry on with your weight paints if you've got anything else, but apart from that, you're ready for the next video.